Stop messing around, stop fooling around, stop delaying, stop procrastinating. Get up, get out, get it done. Everything is possible, nothing is a problem, and anything can be overcome. I just get my ass up out of bed, I get my shit together, and I get out and I start the fight. And that will transform you from a mere mortal into a superhuman being. I've never, ever, ever met anybody who told me that they got rich watching their IRA or their 401k.
Welcome to the Daily Cash Flow. My name's George Robson.
Welcome to the Daily Cash Flow. I'm Peter.
Peter, what's the best part of your day so far?
Best part of my day? Coming here to see you. The best part of my day was I had bagel lox and cream cheese with an old buddy of mine.
Hell yeah.
That was great.
Yeah, that sounds amazing.
Yeah.
I was just thinking to myself, I haven't had lox and cream cheese in a long time. I need to do that soon.
Toasted and scooped.
Hell yeah. All right. Well, to start off, I wanted to touch on 1031 exchanges. It's not something we've actually talked about before a lot. And
let's talk about it.
Yeah, what makes it important? What do I need to know about it?
Well, the 1031 exchange refers to Section 1031 of the IRS tax code. What this section allows us to do is to defer paying capital gains on the sale of certain assets if we play by their rules and replace the asset that we sold with a new asset that's like kind.
But when you say like kind...
you can't sell your Nike Air Jordan collection and buy an apartment building and defer the capital gains on the sale of the sneakers. You can't sell a single family house that you lived in as your primary residence and defer all the capital gains and roll it into an office building. You can sell an apartment building, defer the capital gains, and go into another apartment building or an office building or retail building. Those are considered like-kind assets, income-producing real estate, commercial income-producing real estate. So the IRS just requires that we sell assets and purchase new like-kind assets within a certain amount of time, and with other rules and restrictions applying. We can't touch the money, so we have to put the money upon sale of the first asset into the hands of a qualified intermediary. Title company, bank, professional qualified intermediaries are out there. But why is it important? You've asked me, why is it important? Well, markets change, certain locations become out of favor while others become more in favor. Certain needs and investment criteria of investors and owners change over time. So I may want to purchase all value add assets right now while I'm younger and I'm hungry and I'm able-bodied and I'm energetic and I can add value to things because I'm finding the value add assets in my pipeline. And then later on, at an older age perhaps, I may want quality, lower yielding, lower maintenance, better located Class A assets that are more recently constructed that can deliver more coupon clipping types of characteristics without the need for the heavy lift of a value add or without the categorization of it having once been a C- or a C+ property, and now it's a B+ property or a B property. I may want to be Class A. So it allows us to sell assets and go into new assets, again, as long as we adhere to the rules and restrictions of the IRS Code Section 1031. It's important if you feel like you've added all the value that you can to a building and you have another opportunity that's in your pipeline and you can sell out of the one that you've matured and go into the one that's a development opportunity for you, a value add opportunity, and just continue adding value. We make money in this business when we add value. We increase rents, we lower expenses, we provide certain enhanced amenities or features to properties. Things like this create more demand for our building, our asset, our product, and we add value by doing these things. That's called forcing appreciation. So whenever we raise rents or complete a renovation schedule, we force some appreciation. If there's no more fruit left hanging on the tree for us to force, it may be time to sell out of asset one and buy into asset two if asset two has lots of low-hanging fruit. So the 1031 exchange allows us to do that without paying capital gains. And I get it. I get why the IRS allows deferment of capital gains. It's not forgiveness of capital gains. It's deferment. Deferment until when? So it gets deferred until such time, if and when you ever sell the asset that you've replaced the original asset with. So you could just keep doing it for years and years and years, over and over and over again. But one day you got to pay the piper. When you sell eventually, you have to then pay all of those years of capital gains. George, if you look at all the super big legacy wealthy families in the real estate business in, say, New York City, and there's a lot of them. We've talked about that class of people, that group of people. They've owned stuff forever. They rarely sell. And if and when they ever sell, they always do the 1031 tax-free exchange. They'll pay taxes one day if they ever decide to sell. So I get why the IRS wouldn't really care if I buy an asset, own it for 10 years, and sell it and go into a 1031 exchange into a new asset, or if I just never even sell asset number one. It's the same thing to them, and that allows me to then roll my money constantly into new opportunities that provide me with the ability to add value and increase the value of the asset. And look, the more you can do that over whatever amount of years you're investing over, you can turn $100,000 into millions and millions of dollars by just continually adding value to new properties that you get into via the 1031 exchange.
That goes back to one of our earliest conversations. I remember you mentioned the, when I sell, I'm out of business.
When you sell, you're out of business. You got to pay all those taxes. I never like to sell. The real magic in our industry is being able to create value. It does us different good, a lot less good, I think, to simply park money in an expensive Class A asset where you just do billing and collecting and fix leaky faucets. I mean, that skill set doesn't require much expertise.
It's a little like saving versus investing.
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd much rather buy an asset where I can add all this value and force all this appreciation and just keep doing it over and over and over again. But look, we're here talking about the 1031 exchange. Check it out, IRS Section 1031 of the tax code. It's a hot topic, especially lately, politically, because there's talk of the Biden administration perhaps wanting to renegotiate out the 1031 exchange and whatever tax code changes he proposes. And that would be a pretty tough blow for the real estate industry. It would certainly quell a lot of the transaction volume, and a lot of the industries that are tied to purchases and sales of buildings are going to fall off. Title, banking, loans, brokerage, all of that stuff is going to go way, way down because the 1031 market of buyers that sells one building and goes into another fuels so much transaction volume every year. It's tens and tens of billions of dollars. That all goes away if the 1031 code of IRS goes away. So, I
mean, this political question has come up a couple times in the past years, right?
You're short. Proponents looking to have the real estate industry pay for other gaps in income and revenue and tax code are saying, look, get rid of the 1031 exchange. And they think that that's going to somehow generate more revenue or create some sort of fairness. Again, what does it matter if I own building A and never sell it? Or if I own building A, sell it, and then buy building B, and then never sell that. It's the same string of money. I've not realized the gain. I've never taken it out, and it's never hit my bank account. I've never gotten to use that money for anything else. That building A is still sitting there. That building B is still sitting there. They haven't been demolished, burned down. They don't just disappear. But I encourage people to check it out and talk about it. It's a discussion that's happening every day, and with the new Biden administration coming in, I think we're all going to be hearing more about it. I say keep the 1031 tax-free exchange.
Yeah, we'll keep our ear to the ground on that one.
Keep it.
Next, I want to touch on the pros and cons of refinancing. Can you go into that a little bit?
Well, refinancing is another very important part of our industry. Commercial lending gives us loans in real estate for 3 years, 5 years, 7 year, 10-year terms. Typically not more than 10-year terms. That's about the maximum you'll ever find from anyone. Unlike a single-family home, where it's your primary residence, you can get a 15 or 30-year mortgage. In commercial real estate, you can get at most a 10-year loan. I typically will go out 5 years on a lot of my deals. Some of them I'll go out 10 years. But what happens is when that 5 or 10 years is up, you have to replace the in-place loan with a new loan. Right. Now you have all sorts of market conditions to deal with at the time of replacement or refinancing of the original loan. What are interest rates? Are they higher or lower? That's going to constrain the amount of proceeds you can then borrow from a bank. What is the lending environment in general? In 2009, there was no liquidity at all. Banks weren't lending anything. So if you had loans that were expiring, we did back then what's called kicking the can. We just kicked the can down the road. The banks let us extend 6 months, a year, and we'll wait and see what happens then, refinance when liquidity opens up again. That liquidity didn't open up again for a couple of years. It was 09, 2010, 2011. End of 2011, we started to see banks increasing their activity and opening up some liquidity with commercial lending. Loans were being made. Interest rates had come down a little bit. The Fed had eased rates to make the cost of money a little less. So we were able to, at that point, refinance out of these loans which had already expired, which we were kicking the can on. Fast forward, you're in 2020, pandemic. What do you have? You've got loans that are expiring. Interest rates are way down. Banks don't have a liquidity problem right now. So the availability of funds for commercial borrowers like me is very plentiful. So it's been a really robust and favorable time to be in the debt markets and refinance properties now. So that's one of the things I've been really busy with this year, George, is refinancing loans that are a year or less than a year to maturity and taking advantage of the low rate environment and just putting new debt on the asset and going out another 5 or 10 years. And in another 5 or 10 years, I'm going to have to go through that process all again on those loans that I just refinanced now. But we're constantly in the debt markets. The reason we're constantly in the debt markets is because we always have loan expirations coming due. Every year, there's a schedule of loans that are expiring in that year. Those have to get refinanced. Yeah. Now, I can either sell the asset and pay the bank back, and then I'm out of that loan. But as we've said many times, what don't I do?
Don't sell.
I don't sell. So my only other alternative is to refinance out of loan one into loan number two. And I got to hope and pray that market conditions are favorable, which they are right now, that will allow me to do it seamlessly, easily, with a certainty of execution on the bank's level, with a good loan application process, at a good price and interest rate, and with a good loan to value. We've talked about loan to value before, George, so that's an important one. George, perhaps the value of the asset that has the loan that I'm refinancing on it today has increased beyond its value from when I first put the existing loan on it 5 years ago. So if the value of my building's gone up and the loan principal has gone down, which remember, we make principal and interest payments every month. So the principal balance has gone down, the value has gone up. There's now a delta between loan to value, and that loan to value is a key ratio. We try and keep it under 70, 75% at most. And typically a lot of our buildings are at 50 and 60% loan to values. And it's an important way to build up equity and wealth over the long term. You could refinance and pull out lots of money in excess of your current loan balance every 5 years. A lot of people do that. I've certainly done that on occasion. What I always love is when I refinance out at the same level of debt that's on the books right now and don't put on more debt. And, over 5, 10, 15, 20, you wake up 20 years out, 15 years out, you could be paid off on your mortgage.
Right.
If you play your cards right. So we're always in the debt markets, refinancing loans, refinancing assets. Everyone in our industry is. It's not like a choice. Do you want to be refinancing or not? You have to be. Debts come due, loans mature, they expire, you got to replace them. Let's hope that you've timed your debt terms and your expirations in such a way that they occur when market conditions are really favorable, like they are now.
Is there a way to dictate that specifically?
No, you can't dictate anything. You have to roll the dice. So right now, in 2020, rates are so low, and the value of my buildings has really increased because we have full occupancy, we have higher rents, we're in supply-constrained markets, we have a lot of demand during a pandemic, so rent rolls have increased. So what's happening is we're getting appraisals at these high values, and I'm putting on 10-year money right now. I'm locking it in because I think rates are going to go up in 5 years and in 6 years and in 4 years. I think rates are going to be higher than they are today. So I want these low rates that I'm getting today to exist on my books for as long as possible. So I just did maybe 6 or 10 loans in the past 8 months where we went out on 10-year deals and we locked in 10-year money. But everyone's got to make their own decisions. That's what being an asset manager is.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. So I want to transition a little bit away from real estate specifically to resumes. Resumes I feel like are often used to kind of measure our hireability or our kind of like potential value.
They are. Not unlike a lot of things, though.
Right. And so
how we dress.
Totally.
I mean, it's just it's judging a book by its cover, so to speak.
So that's kind of what I wanted to ask you. Do you think people spend too much time focusing on getting their resume right?
I don't know how much time people spend on getting their resume right or not right. I know that people spend a lot of time creating a resume, and they need to. I update mine every year, except I don't call it a resume. I call it a bio.
I was going to say, for you, you're not really being hired by...
I'm not, but it's all the same thing. All the same thing, but I update mine all the time. I have to send it out to media outlets. I have to send it out to banks. I have to send it out to investors sometimes. So there's a use that I have for it, so I make sure it's updated and that it looks right, as does anybody working on a resume or a bio. So I don't know what the time into it matters, but to me, everyone's got to have one and it should look right. To me, these things don't often tell the full story. A resume will say where you worked, for how long, perhaps what you made, perhaps some core skill sets, if you speak a language, I don't know. But what they don't say is all the other cool stuff, potentially, that it could if you've got that stuff in your life. And I always feel like the experiences that I have that I don't write on paper and conveying those experiences to others are what make me many times stand out and make me special. So I've done a lot of traveling, even as a young person. I've got incredible stories, I think, from these travels. I've got a broad spectrum of experiences that I can bring to the table, and I can talk to you about it, and I can look you in the eye and share some of these stories with you. And I get really happy about it, and my body language changes, and I get psyched to tell you my stories. And my confidence comes out, and so now I'm communicating confidence. A piece of paper can't communicate confidence. And now I'm telling you something, perhaps I've read you a certain way, and I'm sharing a hand-picked story with you. Maybe I'm going to get a connection or a laugh out of you. Perhaps that's going to influence your decision if you want to work with me or hire me. So I always like focusing, in addition to creating resumes, to letting other things communicate my story as well. And George, if I am in a situation where I've emailed someone my bio and then I meet them, or I have to present you a resume, and you know how it goes. People look at the resumes. Oh, I see you went to Harvard for, it's very stale. And people that look at resumes, they look at them all the time. They look at them every day, day in and day out. It can't be more horrifying and boring. Think about that for a second, right? Here you are, you've worked hard in your life and your career on your resume, and you're presenting someone with a resume, and it's like the 50th resume they've seen before lunch on a Tuesday. I mean, how great is it going to be for that person? So if I've got something to say that's not on the resume or is maybe inappropriate to put on a resume, I'm going to pound the table. I'm going to make sure that I create my own opportunity to communicate what it is that's not on the resume. Hey man, I do triathlons, and I just learned how to do it last year, and I saw that tri-bike on your car in the parking lot, and I know that it's your car because you have that cool brown Porsche, and you've got the number stickers with the miles and the distance on the back bumper, like all those other triathletes do, and I see that you've got them here in your office, so that must be your car. I just learned how to do it. Check out my times. I mean, I don't know, whatever it is, but you got to find something to connect on top of and in addition to your resume. Because your resume is going to be just straight up the middle, and as good as you make it look, it's just not going to be that exciting. But pound the table, pound it, and raise your voice, and look them in the eye, and make sure you create your own way and opportunity to tell your real story. It's going to be so crucial. So yeah, resumes are important. We have to send them around. They're a snapshot of a little bit of who we are, but it's not the broad picture of who we are. And you're going to have to find ways to really communicate that broad picture.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. What steps have you taken to kind of intentionally build your brand? And how does that affect your bottom line when it comes to your business?
Well, I'm a fan of the brands. Okay. All brands, I'm a fan of the concept of a brand. It's very hard to build a brand in business, no matter what business you're in, real estate or consumer products, anything. Building a brand, and a successful brand, is the holy grail of business achievement. I think we may have even spoken a little bit about this before. So real estate and commercial real estate, apartment buildings, historically, George, unsexy, unbranded, not brandable, not cutting edge, technologically behind everybody else. I mean, it's just, I equate it to knitting a sweater, right? I mean, it's like I'm just sitting here knitting my sweaters in my industry. The past 5-7 years, that's changed a little bit with technology and features and apps and things that we can now deploy into our business to try and make things a little bit more cutting edge and a little bit more streamlined and efficient. But for me, I want to build a business from the center out. I want to build a business that's not fragmented and all over the place. I want to build a business that's centralized and grows from a core. And when I do that, I find that I have an ability to brand it. So in our business, again, people never brand anything. The people that do what I do, George, they call their businesses PWR Equities or LJB Capital. It's meaningless. It's so meaningless, so uncreative, so boring.
Not something you're going to throw in a Google search engine.
Yeah, I mean, you're only reinforcing these stereotypes that the world has of us as real estate guys by having some of your initials and then the word equities or capital. I just find it dumb. Come on, you guys can all do better than that. So when I first started off in New York City, after a year or two, I had a couple of buildings up in Harlem, so I had the website Rent Uptown NYC. And I thought that was cute. No one else was putting together websites to market properties that had a catchy name or some kind of name where they could remember it and go online and click on a link and get to your website. I then started buying buildings in the Bronx and in Brooklyn, and then I had rentthebronx.com, and then I had rentbk.com. And then after a while, I got rid of all of those and I just made it Rent NYC Best. You know, you grow from one area, one neighborhood to other connected close by areas and neighborhoods, and you can then have an opportunity to brand something. When you brand yourself, you're owning an idea and a concept, and you're making people think of your idea and concept. We've talked about Q-tips and Kleenex, right? You don't say, hand me a cotton swab, you say, hand me a Q-tip. You don't say, hand me a paper tissue, you say, hand me a Kleenex. When you can achieve that, it's very powerful. So then, George, what I did was I started building out my presence and my business here in coastal Monmouth County in coastal New Jersey. And it started off as rentasburypark.com. Then it was rentbelmar.com, rentlongbranch.com, et cetera, et cetera. I got rid of all of that and rolled it up into rentjerseyshore.com. My presence expanded, my opportunity to brand expanded. For me, having the ability to communicate rentjerseyshore.com as a brand, I think does a couple things. Number one, it creates a little bit more credibility. Number two, perhaps it makes us a bit more of an authority in our region, and not just in one little town, but in the region. The Jersey Shore is a very lifestyle-heavy area. So our products that we offer, our apartments, are very lifestyle-oriented offerings, and our buildings have lifestyle-related amenities. We translate all of that stuff into our website, and we tell a story. So when you go to rentjerseyshore.com, you're going to see lifestyle content. We're heavily involved communicating with local businesses and supporting local businesses. We tell you about that. We have videos up of young people, our tenants, and other people in our area around the Jersey Shore, enjoying themselves. The beach is obviously a big part of the lifestyle around here. So we have a chance to communicate such a bigger message to our audience and our customers, more so than just, hey, one bedroom apartment for rent, two bedroom apartment for rent, $1,500 a month. Yeah, it's so much more than that.
Creating a community.
You create a community. We're in the community. I mean, we live here. We work here, all of us on our team. We live and work here. And so we're part of the community. And when we go to great bars and restaurants and clubs, and when we're out on the beach, we're seeing everybody in our buildings and we're interacting with them. And you know what's great is going to the beach and seeing thousands and thousands of rentjerseyshore.com beach towels. So why is that great? When you get keys as a Rent Jersey Shore tenant. Key Day includes a branded tote bag, rentjerseyshore.com tote bag, and in it is a branded rentjerseyshore.com keychain with this really cool Momo design, Museum of Modern Art, and it's laser engraved with our logo, and it's Key Day, so we put your keys on the Momo keychain. You get a couple of t-shirts, you get this great beach towel, rentjerseyshore.com branded, and a bunch of other stuff.
Those towels are soft, they're good stuff.
We go around town and we see this stuff out there. People are wearing the shirts, they're out on the beach with the towels. We see the keychains, and it's so cool. Sure, could we rent apartments without giving away all the swag? Absolutely. Is it expensive to give away the swag? Absolutely. But I want to do it because I want to be the category killer. I want to build a brand so that when someone's in a conversation somewhere and someone says to them, I want to get an apartment, you live at the shore, where should I go? Rentjerseyshore.com. Easy, simple, it rolls off the tongue without them even having to think about it. Why? Because we built the brand. So I think building a brand, no matter what business you're in, I don't care if it's real estate or sneakers or candles, building a brand is critical because you want the customer to think of you first. You want the customer to think of not your product, but your brand. And once they think of your brand, selling them the product is a no-brainer. Yeah. In commercial real estate, in apartment buildings, you don't see branding, and I never get it. I think everyone's missing out on such a big opportunity, and I'm sure I'm inviting lots of competition now by speaking freely and openly about this, but I welcome it. Create brands. It's got to be natural, evolutionary, it's got to make sense, it's got to tie in with so many different aspects of who you are, your product, your business, your team. I mean, all of it's connected. And that's how you build brands, if you can execute on that.
How do you prepare for a speaking engagement, interview, podcast? What's your process like for that?
So the first thing I do is I map it out, just scribble or just draw it out real quick, because it's gotta be storyboarded, for lack of a better analogy. And when I'm confident on where the story's going and what I'm going to say, I'm going to start off with something funny or positive, energetic, just to capture some attention. And then I'm going to go right into it. I'm going to say to you what I'm here to talk to you about, what I'm going to be delivering to you. I make it very quick. I don't harp on it. Say, hey, today we're going to talk about Business 101. Let's get into it. Boom, I'm going to get into it. But I have to set the mind up to accept the information I'm going to give. I try to be succinct and clear. Main thing I want to do is focus on delivery of my message, so eye contact, presentation skills, body language, facial expressions, all that stuff has to be on, because everything I do communicates information, right? So I want to make sure I'm communicating the right information, but I'm going to be clear and succinct, and I'm going to deliver it properly. At the end, I'm going to make sure my audience has some takeaways. I want them to know that they've got 3 or 5 actionable items. I want them to have 3 or 5 tips that they can write down and use right now to better their life, their efforts, their business, whatever it is that we're here talking about. And so it's very important for me to make sure that they have 3 to 5 actionable items, takeaways, real takeaways. And then I'm going to wrap it up with another funny story, maybe a joke, something, but it's relevant. I'm not just going to go on a tangent about something else. I'll wrap it up, try and create some laughter. Throughout the entire presentation, you have to find the opportunities for laughter. Laughter is going to keep your audience super engaged with you. These things can get dull. They can get drawn out. They can get boring. And if you're not good at speaking or presenting, I'm okay at it, but if you're not good at it, it's just going to be monotone and your attention span of your audience is going to go out the window like a butterfly.
Do you rehearse these kinds of things, or do you just kind of prep?
I don't really rehearse them at this point. I think that what people can rehearse is the presentation skills. So get in front of a mirror. We've all heard stories about how actors are trained to do bits in front of a mirror and look at themselves and see what they look like and how they sound. So if you're not experienced with presenting, I recommend everybody find a way, get in front of a mirror, get up on stage, read poetry, play music, whatever it is in front of an audience, but gain confidence and know what you look like when you smile. Should you smile ear to ear? Should you smile with one side down and one side up? Should you raise an eyebrow? We all have a look, or whatever your look is. Find what your look is. So it's really funny. We all see that a lot if we watch late night TV. We see these celebrities come on and they jockey to have the camera hit them at a certain angle because they know what their good side is, what their bad side is, how they want to be shot, because they know they're in front of cameras often. Regular people like you and I, George, maybe we're not in front of cameras as much as those celebrities, and it might be a little bit more difficult to know what the right angle is. But you got to know.
Got to find out.
And
I know Henry Fonda, I believe, had in his contract that there was a specific light that he requested. That
I would believe it.
Always used because it made his eyes light up.
I would believe it, and I don't blame him. Yeah. I mean, if you know, you know. You got to pull that off, right? But yeah, I mean, I think you just got to map it out. You got to know where you're going and make a great delivery.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, well, ready for ZestQuest, Peter?
I'm always ready, George.
Hell yeah.
By the way, George,
yes.
ZestQuest for us is our way of wrapping up these podcasts on a different note, perhaps engaging with some laughter, some more interesting stuff. We've been business, money, banking, real estate for a half hour, an hour. Yep. So at the end, we do these ZestQuests. I don't know if you knew that, but we're now going to ZestQuests. I perk up a little. I love the ZestQuest.
It brightens up the week for everybody. Yeah. So first one, what do you do for free that you would gladly pay for?
Spending time with my daughter, reading. I do so little of it lately, admittedly. I need to be reading more. I've read a few books this year. Usually I read a few books a month. So this year's been a busy year and I haven't had my read time available.
You said you'd hooked up that corner with the hammock and I forget what else. But
let me tell you, when I get in a hammock, I fall asleep. I'm not really reading. I have to sit upright and pay attention when I read. Things that I would pay for that I get for free, man, laughter. I love being with people and laughing a lot. The more I can make you laugh or you can make me laugh, I think that stuff's priceless. Yeah.
Those are good ones. And then last question for today. What's the best/worst practical joke you've been a part of? Either giving, receiving?
George, how much time do you have?
Well, I guess not that much, but...
So I've been responsible for administering more practical jokes than most people. I would say that I'm up there in the books.
Really?
I do it a lot.
So any that come to, if you don't think about it too long, any that come to mind quickly. So it doesn't have to be the best, but...
Okay. So my older brother, my oldest brother is in the retail jewelry industry.
Okay.
He is a serious guy. He's a smart guy. He takes his business seriously. Every day he gets up, goes to work, suit and tie. How are you? Nice to meet you. Welcome to our store. No, I mean, he is buttoned up. This guy, my brother, man, for those of you that know him, he's a buttoned up guy, right? So I was maybe a sophomore or junior in high school, and I just couldn't take how serious and buttoned up and grumpy he was all the time. I mean, serious. To get him to smile, man, it was like parting the Red Sea. So I said, you know what, I'm sick of this. I'm going to address this situation right now. So I rented a pink gorilla costume, and I got a super soaker. One of those huge water guns that, military-style water guns.
I had a whole arsenal of super soakers growing up.
Put on the pink gorilla suit, and I went into his jewelry store with a full super soaker with, I think I may have even put some ivory soap in there so that it bubbled up a little bit. And I walked in, and they knew it was me, so the cops didn't come jump me and handcuff me immediately. They let it go. But I got in there, and I started spraying the whole place with soapy water. I went into his office, and I got him. He was soaking wet. I got the salespeople. I got some customers. And people were rolling. I mean, it was a big risk, right? Because it can either be not great, and he could be pissed,
right?
Or it could work. Yeah. And everybody, thankfully, thought it was pretty funny.
They were on board with it.
Youth also had something to play with it. I think at 52, if I went in and did that now, I might get my ass kicked.
If you want to do that, though, I think we should film it because that would be great.
Yeah. But at the time, I was 14 or 15, and I was an idiot, so it was par for the course for me. So people started laughing, and my brother, I love him. He was not laughing at first, but man, was he he got the joke eventually, and it was a great moment for me. I know he loved it. He still talks about it.
Pardon the Red Sea. Let my brother laugh.
Yeah, that was a good one. My poor brother. Joke number 2. Same guy, same target. He's an easy target. Come on. For those of you that know him, how easy in a target is he? I mean, I have a whole book I could go on. So I was in grad school down in Washington, D.C., getting my MBA. And I was living in the city, and I had my car with me, and it was finals week. He was calling me, hey, how's it going? You studying for that's how we spoke. He was always concerned about my studying and my finals. He never wanted to know if I went to any good parties or if I was meeting girls or anything like that. He wanted to know if I was studying 20 hours a day, because that's what's important to people. Totally. So, he's calling me all finals week. You studying, you make sure you get the good grades. You need the good grades, because in life you got to have good grades and then you got to get a job and this whole thing. I'm like, man, someone needs to do this. So I have my car with me, and I'm in my car, and I got a parking ticket one day. I said, you know what? It sucks that I got a parking ticket, but I just got an idea. I called my brother. I said, hey, it's Peter for Hank. And his assistant goes, he's in a meeting. He's in an incredibly crucial meeting. People flew in from Switzerland, from Japan, from Europe. He had the world's leader. It was like the UN, right? He was conducting this meeting. It was so important. I mean, everything hinged on this meeting. And I'm like, no, you got to interrupt him. This is an emergency. I'm in dire straits. Tell him it's an emergency. No, Peter, he says no, you got to call him. I'm like, it's life or death. You got to tell him it's an emergency. So she goes and interrupts this meeting.
Oh, no.
So my brother takes my call, and he says, this better be good. I said, listen, I know you're going to get this. I don't know what to do. I have my final in 20 minutes. And my car got booted in DC. They used to boot the cars. My car got booted. I can't get to my final. I got the person right here who let the boot off, but I got to pay $683. I don't have the money. Can you send me the money? And he went, Peter, and he was pressed for time, right? I had him because he couldn't stay on the phone with me. He needed to get off this phone call with me. Yeah. So his solution was he wired me the $683 instantly. It was great. And he went back to his meeting. He said, I'm going to wire you this money, but you got to pay me back every penny. Every penny. Right? He stressed it. So what did I do? The next week I started writing him checks. 1 penny out of 6,830 pennies.
Wow.
And then the next week, 2 pennies out of 6. So I paid him back every penny with checks. Thousands and thousands of checks over the years. Finally, I just paid it off at the end because my hand was getting tired writing so many checks.
So I wonder how expensive those checks were.
Well, I paid him back every penny, and it was, you know what? He always had my back,
yeah.
And I really exploited that and took advantage of him. So, but it was funny.
Yeah.
But I was being a bit of a douche. Yeah. But it was funny, and he still talks about that one today, and we all do. And every time we go out to dinner and he pays the bill or something, he says, all right, you got to pay me back every penny. So, I love my brother. He's the best, and he let me fuck with him a lot over the years. I have so many more practical jokes if you want to let me go on.
We might just have to make a new segment there.
I can get off of family members and go to college friends. I got high school friends. I got camp. I got every segment and facet of my life.
I'll make a note.
I have dragged people over the coals with my practical jokes.
I'll make a note I'll revisit pranks every few weeks.
But I promise you this, if I am doing a practical joke on you, it means I love you. It means I love you so much, and I want to get a reaction out of you, and I want it to be something between us that we remember forever. And they always are. I'm really good at it. You never know when it's coming with me. I spare no cost or expense in executing. So just know that. Most people would be like, I'm not going to do that. I don't want to spend $300. Let me tell you, I'm spending the $300 and then some, and it's going to be great. And I am going to get your goat like you've never had it gotten before.
That's beautiful and terrifying.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much, Peter.
Thanks, George.
Talk to you next week.
Bye.
If you like what you just heard, you can subscribe to The Daily Cash Flow on iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts. And we'd love it if you left us a review. You can follow us on Twitter and Facebook at SiegelCap and on Instagram at Siegel.cap. As always, if you're an accredited investor, go to SiegelCapital.com and take our survey to see if you qualify to take part in one of our apartment building deals. That's SIEGEL Capital.com.